All right, what's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another panel show, and we've actually am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Johnny can't.
I can hear you.
I can hear
Johnny, you all good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Johnny can't.
No.
I mean, I can hear all of you, but Johnny seems to be struggling here.
He's not muted.
I
Can't figure this out. What a start to the show, people! I don't know. Nothing's Is your laptop muted or something?
Um,
Not you. Coops is fine.
yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Who's the problem?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
I think I can hear everyone apart from Johnny.
Oh, that Johnny. Okay.
Maybe try coming back in.
We've got two Johnnies here in the chat.
That confused me. That's why I was.
You're John.
Yeah, all right.
You're fine. You can put those headphones back in. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Maybe he needs to rejoin. So I don't know. He can't hear us. Can you not hear us? All right. We can hear him. People are saying they can hear Johnny. How?
Too many Johnnies spoil the broth, I think.
You're Coops.
Right,
All
just
right.
Coops.
But Johnny can't hear us. You can hear us, Johnny. No, he can't hear us at all, can he?
Look, he's going to come out. He's going to come out and come back in. But look, let's take two here. What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another panel show. We've got my brother, but making his long-awaited return to the channel, it is John Cooper.
Come on.
I do the Sky Sport.
Coops, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How you doing, guys? All right.
The return.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I think Johnny can hear us now, so let's bring him in, making his debut on the panel show. It is Johnny H. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm all right. I thought I'd suddenly gone deaf. I thought I'd suddenly gone deaf. I was just checking. I could definitely hear. I was tapping away to the intro. The intro was so good. I was like, like this, and I thought, oh, great. And then boom, silence. Good to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting me on. And nice to meet you, John.
Good to meet you, Johnny.
Yeah,
the Johnny show.
It's the Johnny show.
Johnny.
We got quite a lot to get through today, so let's get straight into it. And it's the big talking point after the transfer window. Well, we did let a centre-back go after the transfer window finished with Davinson Sanchez. We were on the coach back from Burnley, weren't we, Johnny? And we saw the news filtering through. And I was thinking to myself, how the hell can we let Sanchez go when there's no chance of bringing in a replacement? So the question is, are we too light at centre-back now? We do have, obviously, Mickey van der Ven, Cuti Romero. After that, you're looking at it, and you've got, Ben Davis, who's not a real centre-back. Emerson Royale, potentially, who's not a real centre-back. And then you've got Ashley Phillips, who's 18 years of age. And then Eric Dyer, who hasn't even been on the bench for a Carabao Cup game when we played the second team. So it's a strange one, to be honest. Let's start off with you, John Cooper. You're John and you're Johnny. So I think I'll call you Coops.
Coops is all right for now. Yeah, we can work with that.
With you, Coops.
What do I think about it? Personally, I would have kept him. I know that's a bit controversial. At the same time, now that he's gone, I'm relieved about it. It's one of those where this is the way that I look at it with Davinson Sanchez. You've got to have a great first team, but you've also got to have players on the bench that are happy to sit on the bench. And Davinson's one of those where even if he's not playing, he's still excited. Did you see him hug Son when he scored? He's still very much part of the ethos of the team, even when he sat on the bench. And that's actually quite difficult to get, a player that's actually still got that morale and camaraderie, even when they're being frozen out a little bit, and they'll come on and they're happy to be a bit part player. I mean, that's Davies all over, right? That's one of the benefits of Davies. He'll never get sour and start pushing for a place in the first team. And that is as important as your first team as well, because it's a squad game at the end of the day. And Sanchez was a real trier. He was quite happy to come on, and play a little bit of a bit part. And for me, that's a working squad, having a player like him in. If you were to have someone like Dyer, I don't think he would be happy sitting on the bench and, taking up room there, So I think someone like Sanchez, I would have personally kept him. But at the same time, we know what he's about. We know he makes mistakes. We know he's got some clangers in him. And if being
kind, John, that's being kind.
This is being kind. But it may work out. We are stretched, but we could get away with it with Romero. We know Romero gets injured a lot. He gets suspended a lot. Then what's going to happen? Then we're going to throw in the young boy, So, I mean, it's a little bit of a risk, but it could pay off. That's what I think about it.
Johnny, what do you reckon?
Listen, I was an advocate of keeping Sanchez. I think he was the only one in the squad that I felt of the old guard that could be kept on. Listen, we all know about Sanchez, but let's be serious. In the low block, one mistake, it's all over. But in the high line, with his pace, he has a chance to recover. And we've seen his recovery tackles. We've seen his recovery blocks, especially in a few of the pre-season games. And I, for one, would have kept him. Would I have sold him? Yes, 100%. You know, could we have improved on him? Yeah, but, you know, he's the Colombian captain. He's come out of the Ajax Academy. You know, for all his faults, he does have, you know, a career, has had a very good football career. I just think it's a strange decision. You know, when you have 9 million bid from Lens, was it? No, Rennes. Sorry, Rennes.
I think it was, yeah.
For 9 million euros, and you turn it down and you end up doing a deal for 9 million for Galatasaray, and then you're, you know, scurrying around trying to get Chalobah from Chelsea and lastminute.com. It just smacks of same old Tottenham. The planning. I mean, you've got Eric Dyer chained to the radiator at Hotspur Way, refusing to move. You know, you've got Davis, who, as you say, is very happy. And why wouldn't he be? He's got a nice life. He's got a life. You know, why rock the boat? You know, he's at the Four Seasons Country Club, spa, swimming. He's got it all. There's no need for him to leave. So you're quite right. He's happy to sit on the bench. But I think of all them, Sanchez was the one player who offered us something. Kuti has a muscle condition which rears its head every now and again. People tend to think it's only this is to do with him going on international duty. It's not. He's had this condition since he was in Italy, and I think, you know, to leave ourselves with an 18-year-old kid, granted a fantastic 18-year-old kid. I think he's playing for England tonight. He starts. He's ahead of Dorrington. I know people have said, you know, him and Dorrington together, but for me, Phillips is a man already at 18. He's huge, you know, left foot, right foot. But as I said to you earlier, Ben and Simeon, I would expect to see Emerson Royal to come in as the right centre-back. And we saw in a couple of games last season where Conte switched him and he almost played as they pushed forward. And the fluid shape, he tucked in and almost was playing as a right centre-back. It's something he's been working on for months, trying to add a string to his bow. And from what I've told, that Ange has said to him, you know, in an emergency, I could be willing to put you there. And when I was told that, I was thinking, well, when's that emergency going to come? You've got Sanchez, you've got this one, that one. But now that could be prevalent.
Yeah, I think Sim, I think we've spoken about this so many times about this Davinson Sanchez situation. But like, I think we're all in agreement that it's probably a ridiculous move to sell Sanchez after the window's closed, so we can't get a replacement. But on Ashley Phillips, it's an interesting one because Ange was, I think Ange brought out a book a while back, and some comments and quotes have been coming out from that book saying that, you know, it doesn't matter how old you are. He's saying if I think you've got a big future ahead of you, like, I'm going to put you in and I'm going to give you minutes early instead of maybe keeping you by the wayside like many other managers do. Do you feel like maybe Ashley Phillips could get, on the back of those quotes, could get some minutes this season?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, look, the thing is, he is an incredible... I was so excited when we signed him. I thought we were going to sign him last summer, and then I asked about him in the January transfer window, and it all went dead, and I thought that was it. It was done. Then we were signing him. Then they bunched the fee up. You know, to have a left-footed, right-footed, pace, power, he has everything of the modern centre-back, but also he's perfect for Ange Ball. Ange likes that 6'4", 6'5" beast. I think he can do it, but as we alluded to before, guys, it's very unusual. It's not unusual to have an 18-year-old striker or an 18-year-old midfielder or an 18-year-old winger, but it's very, very unusual to have an 18-year-old centre-back roll in, especially into something like the Premier League. And would it be harmful to him should he come in and make a mistake? Seeing what our fan base is like at times.
It depends what his mentality is like at the end of the day. And I was watching highlights of him last season when he was playing in the Cup against Nottingham Forest, against the Premier League side, and he didn't look out of place whatsoever in terms of physically. And
It's a
Sim,
beast.
yeah, Sim, do you think, like, how much of a risk do you think it is bringing in someone like Ashley Phillips as a backup?
As much as I want a pathway to the first team, and that is something that we've been complaining about on this channel. So I don't want to be hypocritical by saying now, now there's a pathway to the first team, and I'm going against that. But I think you have to do it in a smart way. Like, if you see how Saliba was a very similar age when he joined Arsenal, and he joined them for big money. And a lot of people expected him to go straight into their first team, but they dealt that situation well. They sent him out on loan to get top-level experience before he was ready to play week in, week out in the Premier League. And now they've really benefited from it. And they've got one of the top centre-backs at a very young age playing week in, week out for them. I think Ashley Phillips, however much he might be a highly rated defender and however much potential he might have, and I'm sure he looks great. He's got all the attributes. At the end of the day, he's 18 and has played a handful of championship games. That is the reality of the situation. Yeah. And centre-back is a very high-pressure position. It's a position where you need a lot of responsibility. You need to be concentrating for 90 minutes. You can't afford to make silly errors and mistakes. And it costs your team points. As Johnny was saying, if you're an 18-year-old striker and you're coming off the bench or you're starting a game, if you miss a chance, you know, another chance might come your way. It's not necessarily going to cost your team points. But if you're Ashley Phillips and you make a really bad mistake at the back, you could potentially be costing your team points. And when fans are assigning blame after game, they might have to reluctantly do it. But they'll say, well, Ashley Phillips was at fault, and that can affect his confidence. And it's very and to do, look, if he had a whole season in the Championship and he'd played 20 games, 30 games, this would be a different story. But the guy's played 5 games or something, or 8 games in the Championship. It's really not a lot. So, like, when we're talking about Ange, what you were sort of talking about, he was saying sometimes the best thing is to throw them in the deep end, see if they sink or swim. Well, why didn't he do that in pre-season then? He had a game to do that. He had Shakhtar to do it. He had Barcelona to do it. He chose to play Dyer against Barcelona. He chose to play Sanchez in that game as well. If this was always the plan to get rid of Sanchez and promote Phillips, why haven't we seen Phillips? And also in the Carabao Cup game as well, he said the only way. I find it a bit hypocritical for Ange. Not hypocritical, sorry, because he didn't say what Ben said. He said now. He said it years ago in a book. So I'm not saying he's hypocritical, but
it's a contradiction.
It would be a contradiction to say like, how am I supposed to judge players if I haven't seen them play? And then you're getting rid of Sanchez and trusting in Phillips when we haven't seen him play yet in a game. So I do think that's it's a massive risk, and I think that Sanchez, however bad I do think he is, and I'm happy that we have decided. I'm happy we took the decision to sell him. We deem that he's not good enough for us, and we've sold him. I'm happy about that. It's something we've been calling for a very, very long time. I see, like, on our last video with Sanchez, when we spoke about it, people were like, well, you've been calling for Sanchez to go for so long, and now he's finally going, and you're complaining, aren't you being hypocritical? And blah, blah. I'm like, it's not that simple though. You can't. I'll give you an analogy. It's like you're living with someone and the bin is overflowing. You're like begging them, can you take the bin out, please? Just every day, can you take the bin out? Can you take the bin out? For like weeks on end, they haven't taken the bin out. It's like overflowing. It's horrible. It's getting stinky or whatever. And then after months, you're like, all right, fine, I'm going to take the bin out. And they take the whole bin and just chuck out the window. Like, and you're like, okay, well, no, where am I going to put my rubbish now? Like, well, you can't just throw the bin out and think that's job done. You know what I mean? I told you to take the bin bag out, not the whole bin. And that's like the analogy I'm talking about. Like, yes, we wanted rid of Sanchez, but now you've got rid of him when we can't replace him. And where are the defenders? So I
don't get it, Simeon. I don't get. I'm completely baffled. Last season, we were saying we were short of defenders, right? So we've got rid of Longley, we've got rid of Tanganga, we got rid of Sanchez, and we got rid of Rodon, right? So, and we brought in Mickey van der Ven and an 18-year-old. So how are we better off defensively? I mean, no one can tell me or convince me one injury to Mickey van der Ven, and we're playing with Davis at left centre back. I really don't get it. I'm mystified as to why do you need to take the risk. I hear the story that we're building, it's a rebuild, it doesn't happen. But say we were to start really well and go 8 games unbeaten, and then suddenly we get an injury and it all falls apart due to this. I think we'll be upset.
Coops, what are you feeling?
No, exactly. Going back to what I said before, I think Sanchez, you know what you're going to get from him. Some days he can look spectacular, and I think that's because his positioning's not right. So what he does, he lunges in where a better defender's already in position just to make the tackle. So when he actually lunges in and times it, everyone in the crowd thinks, wow, this guy's incredible. Like, that's world class, you know. But then 1 out of 5, he'll bring the guy down for a penalty. And so that's Sanchez in a nutshell. So, but I think he did look good. He looked manageable, didn't he, when he was with Vertonghen and Toby? So he looked much better.
In that first year.
Yeah. And so it would have been nice to see what would have happened with him, with a Romero or a Van der Ven.
The top 4 year, John, where Romero got injured and we all thought it was all over.
Yeah. So I actually think he could have done a job for us this year. You know, he is dynamic. He's quick enough, you know. He does have those clangers in him, but I just think it's a silly move, to be honest with you, because like Romero's bound to get injured, bound to get suspended, and then we're really up against it, and then we're having to sort of do some kind of makeshift change, and it's all going to be a little bit risky, you know, like a bit of a shot in the dark.
Coops, if he does get injured, Romero, who would you like to see come in as that right centre-back slot out of Emerson or Ashley Phillips? Because Davis ain't going to play there. He'll be the backup probably for Van der Ven. So out of those two, who do you think's the one that comes in?
Out of those two, as long as you're not thinking Dyer anymore, then what's
no, I think
Dyer?
Where is Pointy Man? Where is Pointy Man? Is anyone?
As you said, he's chained himself to the goalpost at Hotspur Way. That's where he is.
I mean, I can't believe we've reached a point where Emerson Royale is going to be like our number one replacement centre back. I mean, it's just
he's a good defender. He's a good defender.
No, he's very robust. He's strong, isn't he? Like, he's very strong actually. He's got that kind of wiry Brazilian sort of frame, isn't he?
But Ange's seen something in it. The reason, like Ange said to him, you know, so he's obviously seen something in training because he's been training under Conte to potentially play that position. So that's all I can think of, is that Ange's seen that.
He's got no other options. Well, that's also what he's seen.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
No, really, like, we've got nothing. We don't, unless you want to trust an academy player who's played 8 professional games.
It's madness.
Like, that's all, like, not even at the highest level. Then you have to find other solutions. As luck would have it, I do think Emerson could maybe do a job there in the odd game. The question is, if we get a long-term injury, that's the big question. What do we do for a long stretch of games, and will we be found out? And that's the worry.
Yeah, I think we can all safely say that it's a frustrating situation going into the season. But I think out of the outlook of everything, that is like the main frustration, I think, going into the season, where I think the other areas of the squad are actually looking good. But it's lucky that we've actually got probably the least amount of football that we've had to play in a very long time in the season.
That was the game plan all along, to lose
the least amount of football in all 5 leagues, is it not?
Something like that, yeah. I think it is, to be honest.
Yeah.
But look, let's move on from the centre-back situation and let's talk about the right-wing situation. And I know you, Johnny, you're going to have a lot to say on this one. And is Deki suited to Ange Ball? I know Johnny's got a lot to say. We're going to start with you, Coops. What do you think about Dejan Kulusevski? Is he suited to this role that he's playing under Ange Postecoglou?
I'm not sure, but I think he's bang out of form at the moment, personally. I know a lot of people saying he's having good games, but he just doesn't look the same player that we got first bought, you know. And I think that he's just looking a little bit sluggish. He's not sharp on the ball. He's not sort of getting the shots, the ball out of his feet and getting the shots off like he used to. There's something not quite right there. And I think Ange is trying to fill him with confidence by keeping him on, showing them that, not even taking him off to, like letting other players come off before him. I think you can see it maybe a little bit of a confidence thing with him at the moment. But generally the way we're playing, I really want to see some pace down that side. Hence the Brennan Johnson signing. I think that's the one element I was calling out for. Like we have a good team, but we don't have any pace, any outlet. And so from that perspective, I could see a bit of it might be nice to have a little bit of competition for that space. Kulusevski brings something different to like a Brennan Johnson, but at the moment, it looks as though out of everyone, he looks a bit the one that's most out of place in the team, I would say, currently.
Johnny?
Well, look,
different or not?
No, not different at all. Look, when Kulu came in his first few games, in fact, his first 2 games, I was watching it with some people, and I was saying, "Oh my God, how one-footed is this guy? He's so obviously one-footed." And I was speaking to someone, they said, "Look, I'm telling you, next season he's going to get found out. He's going to have these first few months. Next season, they'll be watching the videos. they'll force him onto his wrong foot, and that will be it. It wasn't quite like that. It didn't have the greatest season last season, but as soon as Ange was announced, and I saw how he likes to play his football with his two wingers hugging that touchline, wanting 1v1, I said, no. This is not Kulu. This is not Kulu's game. When you've only got one leg, you might as well have one leg. I'd like to see him develop his game. Look how Kane developed his game where Eriksen left. You know, he wasn't prime Kevin De Bruyne then. He learned. He dropped deep and started spraying balls all over the pitch. I want to see Deki take his game to another level. I don't think that this position will ever work for him. I'm the same as you, John. There's not enough pace down that side. I've said from the day we were signing, or before we even signed Porro, that for me it's Emerson Royal on the right, as a right back, or a right wing back, and Porro for me before we signed Johnson on that right hand side.
Who fills it at centre back then?
Yeah, no, that's when we had the full team. Yeah, but quite. Yeah, he'll do both jobs. He'll be whipping the ball in, right? I see Deki. I think he might develop as an 8 potentially. I think he might need to come inside to develop. But right now, I think Brendan Johnson could do a better job than Brendan than him. I think Brendan Johnson has incredible pace, and it will be quite frightening to have the likes of Solomon and Brendan Johnson and Sonny, whoever you have up front, and we must have potentially one of the fastest teams with Adoji, Mickey van der Ven, and others. I just feel he just keeps coming. It's just so predictable. Force Kulu onto his wrong foot, and it's game over. How many times did we see him against Burnley? He's beat his man, whipped the ball in. No, he wants to come back again and try it again. Get the ball in the box. That's what I would be saying. If my Sunday League team, when I was managing the kids, get the ball in the box, cause trouble. But it's too laboured. And yes, he got a lovely goal the other week, and a bit of a lucky deflected goal. But other than that, it's very uninspiring.
Yeah. The thing is with Deki, I think he can play the role, to be honest. I really do think he can play the role, but I don't think he's playing it well at the moment. And I think he does the first bit right, where he takes it past his man. But then after that, he seems a bit lost at the moment. And I think his end product is completely gone. I don't know where it's gone. Like his decision-making in that 6 months when he first signed to us till the back end of that season, I thought was brilliant. And ever since then, I feel like his decision-making and his end product and the crosses he's putting in and the angles that he's making for himself on the shots are completely off. And I don't know what it is about him, but I do actually think that he can actually play the role. I don't know how you feel, Sid.
I definitely think he can. I think a lot, both Johnnies here are underestimating Kulusevski, in my opinion. And I think they're over-egging how bad he has been this season. Last season, it was very disappointing compared to what... it was a disappointing season, no getting away from that, albeit he did struggle with injury. And I thought there was a period, first of all, when in the first half of the season, I still thought he was pretty good. And there was a period when he came back from injury as well. And he got an assist against Liverpool after coming off the bench, and then got 2 assists against Leeds. And he was looking like his old self. And he ended the season really poorly, especially the last 3-4 months of the season. No excuses. And of course, you want him to step up this season. I think he started the season fairly well. I don't have a lot of complaints that like a lot of people do about Kulusevski. I think he's providing a threat down that right-hand side. I think his dribbling ability has been pretty strong. He did get a goal and he's got an assist. Look, it's not incredible numbers, but 2 goal contributions in 4 games is not horrific. So I wouldn't say his output has been terrible.
Better than Rishi anyway.
Yeah, that's for sure. And look, when I'm comparing him to people are talking about him like he's putting in Rishi level performances. Like he's when I look at him, he's still got quality. He's very strong. It's very hard for defenders to deal with his strength when he's backing into them and then when passes are played into him. I do think he can go on the outside, and that's exactly what he did when he set up Sar's goal against Man United. Albeit I would like to see
deflection. It was a deflection.
Yeah, but he went on the outside, didn't he? He still went down the outside. As I'm saying, he's been criticised for not going on the outside. I'm saying he can do it. Maybe he should trust his right foot a bit more, and I agree with that.
Does he have one?
He does. I've seen his right foot. It's not terrible when crossing. I think
you let him know? And Simeon, I'm not sure he knows he has 2 feet. That's the only thing I'm concerned. Maybe someone should send him an email. Look, the thing is, I would say that if you read some of the early interviews with him, he looks at him, he feels that his best position is actually as a 10. So that would suggest to me that being out on the outside limits him somewhat with a little amount of space that he has to work with. I personally think that he could develop as an 8. He's young enough to develop his game and to maybe find himself in a different position. Because if you put Brendan Johnson there, I think Brendan Johnson will end up taking that position. And then I can see Kulu moving inside somewhere.
I think Kulu could be like a bit of a Bernardo Silva kind of player who can fill in on the wing and fill in central areas as well, to good effect. I can see him being that kind of player for us. And I think he's got the quality to do that 100%. Yeah. But I think when it comes to Brendan Johnson taking his place, I think for me, I still look. I think Brendan Johnson's going to be a very good signing. I think he's going to add something different to our team. But you've got to remember last season, he was very, very used to playing with a lot of space because Forest, albeit he didn't see the ball that much, when he did see the ball, a lot of the times it was on the transition, breaking into space from the counter-attack. And that's where he looks at his best, because when he's got a lot of pitch and a lot of grass to run into, and he's got a lot of space to take on his man, that's where I feel like Brendan Johnson's at his best. Now, if we're going to, a lot of the times, not saying not every time, but a lot of the times we're going to be playing against teams who are sitting in a bit of a low block against us, looking to frustrate us and going to try and suffocate the space, restrict the space. And I don't know yet if Brendan Johnson's game is at the level where he's going to consistently thrive in those moments, or he's going to frustrate in those moments. And we're yet to see that. I think in those positions, I much prefer Deki in those kind of situations when teams are sitting back and Deki has time to take people on. So I think in the little when he's I think when space is restricted, I think Deki, because he's strong, he can thrive. But and I think he's got really good close control. That's something I question about Brendan Johnson, his close control and his ability to play in space and his first touch. And those things are going to be vital when you're sitting against low blocks. So there will be games where Brendan Johnson is really, really effective, and we're able to isolate the fullback, and he's able to breeze past him with his pace. But it's the games where there isn't as much space is where I question Brendan at the moment.
Can I just say one interesting thing is what you're saying about that, and I totally agree with you. But the thing about Ange, which I really like, is trying to get across to players who played before in such a stringent system. If you see space, no matter if you're a centre back, you're a right back, you're a midfielder, drive into the space, okay? And I think with this ethos, you're going to pull players apart, and even teams in a low block, you will find space, because if you drive into areas where there is some, you're going to create pockets for the likes of Johnson or Maddison or others to run into. And I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with anything, but you said really. But I do think that under Ange's system, where you drive into the pockets, you will create space, and I expect us to see a lot of goals this season scored by a lot of different players.
I agree with that.
Coops?
Yeah, and even distribution across the team. I said that to you, didn't I, Ben, right at the start? Yeah. This was before Kane left. I said you're going to see a season where all the goals are going to be more distributed across the whole team. Yeah. More of a well-oiled machine rather than everything focused on one player, which I think is going to be good for us, definitely.
100%.
Something that we've missed for so long, isn't it? Probably since that season where we had Eriksen, Dele, Kane, Son. I think there was a few more as well that were just chipping in everywhere with the goals.
And one thing that I've really noticed, this is probably the most press-resistant team we've ever had. So what I mean by that is when the centre-backs or, like the CDMs are picking up the ball, you're not seeing these sort of sideways passes anymore where they're trying to keep things safe. They're realising by keeping it safe, you're actually putting the team under pressure. If you have an opportunity to go into the space, go into the space. Don't hold back on that, because if you start to hold back, you start to go backwards a little bit. The opposition push up, then there might be a long ball forward. You immediately turn over play. Now we're seeming to keep the momentum, keep the pressure on all the time now. And that starts off right at the beginning of that is how the centre-backs are moving the ball forward. If it's 90% chance you can move it forward, move it forwards. Whereas in the past, it'd be, I could get that forward, but there's a 1% chance the defender might get in the way. I'll go backwards. The difference now, I think you can see Ange saying just forwards, keep it. And so now the whole momentum is like pushed the entire way. And that's, for me, that's been the massive difference I've seen with the team compared to even the Poch era. I think we were still a little bit, dodgy in that area, the press resistance area, but now it's like full on the whole time, which I love to see.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about, the always forward thing. Every time I've gone to watch Spurs now under Ange Postecoglou, every time Spurs pass it backwards, I always quickly glance over at Postecoglou to see what he's saying, because I've seen him go mad on a couple occasions when Spurs get it backwards. And
rather than us going mad, Ben, in the stands every time they pass the ball back, when Davies got to the line and turns around and passes it back. No, we're going that way. So it's refreshing to look at the manager for his frustration rather than vent it ourselves,
100%. And also sorry, just to add on to that as well, you'll notice when the midfielders are picking up the ball now, their instinct is to get on the half turn. So to turn their bodies, shape their bodies in the right way, let the ball run across them more. And also when there's an incoming player, drop the shoulder back towards their own goal. So it kind of befuddles the opposition and keep the forward momentum as well. I don't know if that's part of the coaching or just the talent we've got in Basuma and Sarri. And even Skip does it at certain times, but that also keeps that forward momentum. Whereas in the past, they'd get the ball, they'd hold it, they'd lay it off sideways, would try and sort of work around the opposition a little bit or go over. Now it's a case of get those space, go into it, drop the shoulder, get on the half turn, and keep it moving. And I think it's really fluid. It's really nice to watch as well.
The one thing I really worried about was, I thought the big test would be, okay, so we're playing Brentford, who are quite happy for us to have the ball, and we're a possession-based team. What would it be like when we come up against a team that likes to possess the ball? Would we be able to win the ball back? Would our recovery be good? You always think of the great Pep Barcelona team that just had the ball all the time. And, should they lose it, they used to hunt in packs to win it back. And I was just interested to see how Ange ball would develop when we didn't have the ball, when we went through periods. And so far, I've got to say, I've been quite impressed. I wasn't impressed with, obviously, Burnley, but I think the big test is coming up now with Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah.
And if we
weren't impressed.
We're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot over those two games.
I think
you weren't impressed. Did you say?
I was impressed. I thought
he wasn't impressed with Burnley.
I wasn't impressed with Burnley. I think Burnley pressed in the first 15, 20 minutes. They pressed really high and really fast, and they caused us a little bit of trouble. And it was good to see Kuti being the one to say calm down, which was kind of ironic. But yeah, I think I will judge how we are when we come against possession-based teams like Arsenal and Liverpool. How do we recover the ball? Can we still retain the ball, or are we on the back foot with them? I'd be really interested to see. For me, that would be the real acid test of where we are as a club right now.
Johnny, we got a members chat for you from Ariane. He says, Deki has been good. Porro down the wing is a silly idea. He's just a ball crosser. Porro on the wing ideas only work in a Sean Dyche team where it's cross and inshallah. Porro can't beat his man. He can't dribble. What would you say to that one, Johnny?
Well, how can I respond without being rude? Listen. Look, I disagree. Okay, we saw it last season. They played it. I called it right from the off. I remember when they put poor Tanganga in against Leicester and Porro. I said, turn off your TVs, guys. Prepare for the worst. They go, oh my God, I can't. How can you say that? I didn't even watch the game. I didn't even want to watch it. I listened I listened to it. I didn't watch it, and sure enough, carnage pursued. I think he's very good going forward. I think he can cross the ball. I think he can whip the ball in. He's got a great shot on him, and with Emerson behind him, giving him, the comfort of not having to track back, he can concentrate and using his energy going forward. I think it's tenacious in the tackle. He offers something different. We're bringing in Brennan Johnson, who basically, as you said before, Sim, in his first touch is quite awful at times. What he does have is the second fastest player in the league, and he can carry a ball. I do think that he potentially has something about him. He would not have been my first choice signing, though, not in any shape, way, or form. But he's here, and I think he'll be a useful asset. But I still think Porro could do a job. And I think you'll notice against Burnley, if I'm not mistaken, Deki came off, and who came on? Emerson Royal, and who went up front? Porro. Thank you.
I think you can do in small spurts. I wouldn't want to play him. I wouldn't want to play him.
If you've got injuries, or I'm saying it's an option. I'm just saying it's an option. You know, and he's not the first manager to run it.
Let's move on. Let's talk about this this situation that we got going on up front. And we sold. What would you say, John? We got rid of our 2 best strikers as head of the Mora Sexual Fan Club. You know, I haven't heard that name for a while.
You nearly made T-shirts, mate. Don't have a go at me.
We never got them done in the end. I was kidding about the Mora Sexual stuff. But look, Son. Is Son now the replacement for Kane? Because everyone was clamoring for a big money striker to come in the summer. Obviously, it didn't happen. We ended up going for Brennan Johnson on the right. We do have Richarlison there that cost 60 million last season, but now Sonny seems to have taken up that mantle as the number 9. So, John, do you think Sonny is the Kane replacement now?
Well, he's going to have to be, because there's no other real options, is there? You know, genuine options. What I would say about Son is that because he's captain, I've seen that his game has adapted a little bit. I also think, when he's getting up positions on the edge of the area, in the past, he would get the ball out of his feet and curl one into the far post. That would be his trademark. So he'd make a lateral movement across the box and he'd try and get a shot off quickly. Now his first instinct is to bring in other players when he's around that area. And that for me is that Sonny position. Think about, that's a trademark Sonny goal, isn't it? From either side, he can whip it, get it off on either foot, right? Yeah. But now when he's in that position, I can see he's now looking up and looking for the runners, or he's looking for people coming into the box. So I feel like that's probably come about because of his new role, the captain, and he feels like he wants to be the one, like the fulcrum of all of it, the one that kind of brings it all together and becomes that leader in that way. And I think he is a brilliant captain.
Like Harry Kane was.
Well, yeah, in a slightly different way, but I know what you're saying, yeah. But I would say, though, the difference is when Kane didn't play well, the whole team didn't play well. And I think it's going to be slightly different with Son in there.
Well, what I'm saying is Kane used to just drop deep and just try bring everyone into play.
Yeah. And that's when we played well, was when Kane was doing that. And he was like I used to call him the quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so my thing about Son is that I think he can play that role, but his natural instinct is going to want to drop back and help with the build-up play, because he's now taken on that role as the captain, as the leader, as the one that's gelling it all together. But in terms of actual finishing, if he can get his sharpness back, I mean, to be honest, I know he scored 3 on the weekend, but before that, he isn't quite as sharp as he was a couple of years ago. He's not quite as ruthless, but he's
not suited to playing out on that left though in this system.
What I'm talking about is just the kind of the candy in his heels, the quickness of feet. That's what I'm looking at, the eye test, and how he's able to quickly get the ball out, get a shot off. That little bit of magic's gone, but he's adapting his game and he's becoming a lot more of a fulcrum, like a kind of more of an influential player in that sense.
I think
I'm just saying, I've heard this. I was wondering where I heard this before. Yeah. I was saying, I remember when we were doing some Hotspurs back in the day, like Kane had just got 4 assists and a goal against Hampton. You were like, yeah, but he's not quite the Kane he was a few years ago. Is he world class?
He's a different Kane, wasn't it?
Is he world class? I'm like, come on, the guy's.
We're not talking about Kane.
I know. I'm saying I've heard this all before from you.
Tim's just trying to recreate the Hotspurs.
I just remember this. I remember this one. I've got a long memory. I just remember all these conversations we had. For me, like in terms of like, can Son be our Kane replacement? Look, no one can replace Kane, but can he do something? Can he supply us with that? Basically, can he be that striker who's like our goal getter? Basically, not maybe get as many as Kane got, but can he be like our main source of goals? Can he be that
20 goals?
Yeah, and I think he can. I think he can be our main striker. If I told you we were going to sign a striker this window and he's going to score 20 Premier League goals, you'd be like, okay, that's pretty good. So if we just say that player is not, we hadn't signed him, it's just Son. Like, I think I would accept that. I think that's like a good. I think that would be a good replacement for what Kane offered. And I agree with John. I think he is starting to add a bit more to his game when it comes to build up and bring other players into play. I'm happy that for me, I didn't want to see him out wide anymore. I think maybe in certain games he can fill in there and he can still do a job out wide if need be. But I think his best position just isn't out wide anymore. I think if you're asking me what his best qualities are, it's his ability to finish. His finishing ability is elite. Pure elite finishing. It's one of the best, if not the best, in Europe when it comes to like outdoing his expected goals and things like that, and how he can find the corners from all sorts of angles. It's astonishing, his finishing ability. And the only way to get the best out of his finishing ability in this day and age for him is to get him central. So when he's picking up the ball, he's picking up the ball in areas where he can get shots off and score goals. In the first 3 games of the season, he was picking up the ball in areas just really far out wide, hugging the touchline almost. And he had always maybe a defender to beat as well a lot of the time. And when he does beat that defender, a lot of the time he's going down the line to the byline and he's asked to create rather than score. That looked like his main kind of job over the first few games. Is more of a creative job than a goal scoring job, and his best attribute is goal scoring. That is his number one attribute. So you've got to make the most out of that. And I think if we can, I think he can be just as clinical as Kane in front of goal. I really believe that. I think when it comes to finishing, I think Son can be just as clinical, but Kane is always going to get himself more opportunities because of his physicality. He's more likely to win headers in the box if crosses come in, and if he's taking the ball on the edge of the box, he's more likely to shrug off a defender and turn and shoot and get a goal. Son, it's going to be harder for him to do that because of his physicality. But when it comes to when the chances fall his way and just pure clinical, I think Son can be just as clinical as Kane. So if we can get him in those,
Son suits this system more as a number 9 than Kane does to get the best out of the 2 players.
I wouldn't say that. I think Kane can fit in any system. I think he can be.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Kane can't fit in any system. I agree. Of course he can. And if Kane was in this team, he'd be scoring bucket loads of goals. But what I'm saying is I actually think Son, with his speed as well, actually suits this system a lot more than Harry Kane does as a number 9.
I think we're more fluid. Personally, look, again, I stated this from the off since around system. Son can't play out left. Kulu can't play out on the right. It will all have to change. And nothing has made me change my mind at all. One swallow doesn't make a summer. He scored 3 goals. Poor touch second half. He should have had the 4th, as Ange said. But
from a Kulu through ball, might I add.
Yeah. But, it still should have buried it. But my point here is that, we saw against Leicester when he came back and we thought Sonny's reborn, scored the hat-trick, and then went AWOL again. I think this system is so much more than what we're looking at. We're looking at the Kane, everything Kane. And we're still talking about Kane, right? Kane has left the building, right? This is no longer Harry Kane FC. Sky News, BBC, they're all still talking about Harry Kane every week. Are they scoring more goals without Harry Kane? Are they a better team without Harry Kane? Right? We are a more fluid team, okay? And I think Son is just one component of an interchanging attacking system where you've got Solomon, Johnson, Kulu, Maddison, right? It's coming from all angles. And I expect to see a lot of interchangeability. I don't think it matters if Son doesn't score next week, but matters. It's about winning the games. It's about winning football. And, we all know that Richie isn't firing right now. We all know that mentally is not there at the moment. Confidence breeds confidence in football. You can see his whole body language is wrong. But as a fan base, we should be hoping that he gets it right. Because let me tell you, a fit and confident Richarlison, when you talk about pockets of space, when he drives forward on that line, he's taking two on the shoulder. He's taking a couple of defenders with him, and he's leaving pockets of space like we saw. I know it's a poor example, but against West Ham, where he came on in that second half, and he left pockets of space for Gio and for Basuma and Salah to exploit. And I think everyone has an important part to play in this system. I think we're too focused on a 9 or in Angie's system. I think it's everyone is important. I know it sounds ridiculous, but We are a team now. We are a team. I don't think we've seen us play as a team for such a long time. We are focused all on Kane. Look for Kane, through Kane. Now he's not there. No one's looking for him. It's all about how the team moves and gels. And I think that is a massive bonus for the team and for us as fans to watch this football. I, for one, have really enjoyed it. I expect some bumps along the road. Hopefully they're not giant potholes. But whilst it's developing, and we're at the very early embryonic stage of handball, and I never expected it to be where we are right now.
What do we do with this Richarlison situation? Obviously, Son's taken his spot now at number 9. Not many games, only 16 games now to the January transfer window. How does Richarlison turn this round, and how does he get his chances?
It's out in Brazil right now. He's still rated in Brazil. He needs to get his confidence back. We should. I know.
How does he do that from the bench? Like, I can't see it happening.
He has to show in the minutes that he's on that he's worthy of more minutes. That's what he has to do. Look at Callum Wilson. Look at Callum Wilson last season. He was always scoring off the bench whenever he came on. He didn't mope and just say, "Oh, why not sign?" Every time he came on, he scored. He was like, "I'm going to prove that I'm worthy more minutes."
That's the problem with the mentality of the players. I'm not sure if Richarlison's got it in him to turn it around like that.
Listen, he's a winner. He's 100%. He's a winner and wants to win. But you can't get frustrated with yourself, and you cannot drop your head when shit's not going right.
You can see that happening right now,
and that's what's happening. Yeah, we all have it. We all have it. But as a professional, everything's it's not going. I've had a terrible week. Yeah, that's all right for us. But when you're a professional footballer, that stuff cannot affect you. Nothing can affect you. Whatever you bring in during the week, whatever's happened off the pitch is irrelevant. When you get on that pitch, your first and foremost responsibility is for the team and to score goals or try to score goals or at least create some space for your team members. And, I tried to make excuses for him. I can't make excuses for him. But there is a player in there. But our fan base have got to stop this relentless scapegoating. Sanchez, Emerson. And now, some of the stuff I've seen on Richarlison, wanting him to die and some of the stuff is awful. It doesn't help. It doesn't.
I know. That's what I was going to say.
It doesn't help the players. A fit and working Richarlison is going to be a massive advantage to this club. There shouldn't be a single player, even if you don't like them, they're not your favourite player. It's okay to flip-flop. It's okay to be wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. We've all got our loves and I don't like him. But if he turns it round, great. Because it's great.
100%.
As fans, we always need a scapegoat. I've noticed that. That's a typical thing. Every time, because that's the thing. People are unable to. The fans sometimes are unable to analyze a game holistically. They have to reduce it down to the one bad apple that they see. And it's like low IQ analysis. I think sometimes.
Very.
And I think that's that. Like you said, Emerson last season. We had it. Richarlison this season, and let's be honest, we're winning these games. Oh yeah, Sanchez. I remember when he missed the penalty, and by the way, it wasn't that bad a penalty. He got it into. It was into the corner. It was actually probably better than most of the Fulham. It was actually better than Madison's penalty because Madison didn't go into the corner. And anyway, I heard someone say when he missed the penalty, someone went, "Get rid of him now." As soon as he missed the penalty. I mean, it's a penalty shootout, you know what I mean? But that's the sort of knee-jerk reaction you get from Spurs fans.
Where was the captain? Where was the abuse from the captain?
It's all football fans.
Yeah, no, it's just a typical football fan thing to do, isn't it?
No, when it comes to Richarlison, it is a bit frustrating when you've paid 60 million. You can't have a simple first touch.
We haven't paid 60, but we haven't paid 60 million.
I think the add-ons was 5 goals. He gets an extra 10 million.
No.
But what about this?
All you need to worry, if we end up paying the 60 million, it's all gone right, okay?
100%. Look, I'm backing Richarlison to turn it around. I was one of his biggest advocates when we signed him. That
we're hoping.
Let's get behind him then. As a fan base. Let's get behind him.
I want to be behind him.
In the fans, we are, in my opinion.
I want to be behind him. I am behind him. I'm just saying he needs to learn how to do simple things that most footballers should be able to do. I'm not even mad at him for not scoring. I'm not getting on at him about not putting the ball in the net. I'm getting on at him for his overall contribution to the team. Yeah, go on, Johnny.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt, but I think we've got two different fan bases here. We've got the keyboard warrior polluted fan base who hide behind there and with their vitriol.
Yeah.
And then we have the real Spurs fan who on Saturday, as Ben will tell you, were singing his name and singing his song while he was in that bench over and over and over again. Okay, supporting him. Right now, if you're a fan and you're sat at home and you're not going to those games and you heard that, you should be like the hardcore fans who are trying to get behind him, hoping that he turns it around.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard his song when he was brought on. Right. I was listening to it on the headphones. I could hear
it. Wasn't
his song.
even when he came on. Even when he was warming up on the sidelines, they were singing his name.
Yeah.
He's working. I see a guy that's really trying. I see he's working hard.
Too hard.
I think, sometimes, too hard. To the point where it can look a little bit headless chickeny,
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we get the ball to the byline, let's say Kulu gets to the byline, his movement coming into the box is always the same. He goes to the goal line. There's never a moment where he checks his run and allows for a cutback, back for a pass. So it's just every time you see the predictable same movement, and he's always covered by a couple of defenders. I don't know if you remember the 9-1 Wigan game where Lennon and Defoe had a relationship where Lennon would get to the byline and all Defoe did was like he checked his run and Lennon would just pass it back. Like I want to see a little bit more of that from Richarlison. At the moment, it's a little bit too one-dimensional in his movement. It's a bit too predictable, I would say, and it's just too easy to read.
The other thing, John, that Simeon and I spoke to Simeon and Ben earlier was the things that you do as a natural footballer, where you don't even think about. He's having to think about. He's thinking about the most basic of touches. His first touch, a pass, getting hold of a ball. It's like he's in such a panic. His whole mindset seems to have gone. The things that you wouldn't think about, just not happening.
You know what's very similar to this. This is very similar to the Vincent Janssen story, because you could see when Vincent Janssen played. He was someone that I could actually see a player in. I could actually see a lot of talent in Vincent Janssen, but he was trying so hard to work for the team that his confidence completely went in front of goal. And it was almost like he was then having to battle with his demons a little bit. And I can see, unfortunately, I can see a similar sort of correlation with Richarlison. I don't want it to go that way. But at the same time, look, we've got to remember he averages 10 goals a season, Richarlison. So let's not judge him on a 20 goal a season striker. We have to remember he is a 10 goals a season player. And so as long as the team and the whole machine is working well, and he's a part of that, and we're scoring goals and we're getting over the line, I don't mind if he doesn't score personally. It's just unfortunate because he's the striker. People are always going to make jokes about him. Oh, you know, how many goals you got? How many goals? But if the whole team are playing well, it doesn't really matter so much.
It's also the fact, John, that he's come in and score a hat-trick, Son, in his first game when Richarlison gets dropped. I mean,
it's not just that. Even in Son's little cameos, when he's gone central, when come on for Richarlison, he's probably done more in those little cameos during those games than Richarlison has, like in the hour or 70 minutes long that he's had in those long periods. So, like, Son is really showing Richarlison up a bit, I feel like, in that central area when he's given the time with the opportunity.
I agree.
John, are you saying bring in Vincent Janssen? I mean,
yeah, let's bring him back.
Listen, everyone's going gift Auburn. Meanwhile, let's get the number one striker in Belgium at the moment is Vincent Janssen. So maybe we should have signed him.
Let's hope it's less like Vincent Janssen and more like that run that Kane went on when he went like 10 games without a goal at the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden found his feet. Maybe it's more like that.
Let's move on to the last topic of the panel, and I'm really interested to get your views on this one, and it's regarding James Maddison. And I know at the end of the show we're going to have a song from our very own John Cooper about James Maddison, but is James Maddison better, or can he be better than prime Christian Eriksen? We'll start with you, Johnny, on this one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I do believe it. I think we've had such snobbery, especially at this club, when we look down on the Championship as some lesser light. Oh, yes, he's done very well, in the Championship, but I don't know if he can make it. This is the Premier League, where really the truth of the matter was that I think the Championship, in some respects, and some of the teams were better than League One, in France, and some of the teams in the Spanish league. I think it's more competitive than people think. When you look at Grealish, Bowen, and Maddison has got a new lease of life. I think he has embraced this this opportunity with both feet. I mean, it's interesting. I see Eriksen. He had 305 games for Spurs, right? And he scored 69 goals and 90 assists. It was quite a lot of assists, right? But Maddison in 203 games, so it's 102 games less, has got 55 goals, so only 14 less. I actually think, 41 assists. But I do believe that if you also played with the quality that Maddison is going to be playing with, that he's going to have far more assists. I expect to have minimum this season 12 and 12. That's my prediction for this season for Maddison. I think he's just different. I think he's a better free kick taker than Eriksen.
Eriksen was so good at the beginning. I don't know what happened. He went like 3
it was like a
years.
penalty.
the 2014, I think his free kicks were. I think it was 2014.
Yeah,
free
when
kicks
he
were
was-
excellent. And then I think he became a better player, but the free kicks went for some reason.
Couldn't
Yeah,
get past
weird
the
one,
first
isn't it?
man. How many times did you shout at a
Oh, the
corner?
corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed with Maddison that's slightly different to Eriksen is that he takes the pressure off the team, and when we're defending, he drops back, he gets the ball, and he drives into the spaces a little bit better. He dribbles better than Eriksen, which actually relieves the pressure off the team a bit more. And by quickly turning defense into attack by that little dribble, suddenly we're right bang, got a goal opportunity by just doing that little turn, that little drop of the shoulder, and really attack the space in front of him. I think Eriksen was a little bit more sort of, controlled the game, a bit more of a metronome in there, and sort of controlled the tempo a little bit. But I think Maddison has the ability to, and also round the edge of the area in the final third, I think he drives into the box a little bit more with the ball or without the ball to try and receive it.
I think I agree. Also, what was interesting, I felt, was against Bournemouth, he played a completely different role. He was deep lying. Yeah. I was reading the stat. I think 45% of his touches were in his own third of the box, just outside the penalty box, and yet he was controlling the game from there, bringing the ball forward. Whereas, in other games we've seen him play a lot further forward. So I don't know whether this was Ange asking him to play that role, or Maddison being intelligent enough to see the opportunity. This is where he could gain space and have more influence on the game. I think he's very, very clever. I think that the move to Spurs will give him the England opportunities that he's craved for. I know it's very crowded space there, but I just think that how we've gone 3 years without a creative midfielder is just beyond me. And, it's going to bring so much to this team. And I think Eriksen, there was so much around Eriksen at the time that maybe we didn't appreciate him as much as we should. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Well, I don't know. I was just thinking that Eriksen looked great, but you've got to remember that team we had under Poch was absolutely. If you look at it on paper, you're thinking, how did we not win a trophy with that team? But when we did lose Dembele, I did notice that Eriksen did look a little bit more lost, shall we say? And I don't know if you remember it started to. We did get fourth that season, but it was really we were falling over the line a little bit.
Couldn't influence.
And he wasn't influencing as much. And I'm just wondering, what would be the difference between a Maddison and an Eriksen in that situation? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. You could also argue that Bissouma's with Maddison, and that's helping things out a lot, because when they're not playing, we completely lose the midfield. When those two are in that team together, they almost complement each other, and we've got complete control of the game. And against Man United, the first 20 minutes or so, we were sort of sat back. We were couldn't even get hold of the ball. Maddison was coming back and collecting the ball and really taking the pressure off the team. And that's when we start to get a bit more of a foothold. So I think he's got that intuition to sort of get involved and know how to drop back, know when to go forward. I think he's got he's got that kind of footballing IQ, hasn't he? He's got a good intelligence about him.
Sure. I mean, Eriksen's best ever season for Spurs was 10 goals. I believe that Maddison will surpass that. I really do. I
agree.
think we're going to see 2-goal games.
But it's not. I don't even care if he didn't. I mean, obviously you want him to score goals, but like I said, if he's in that team and you can see the team is absolutely flying and he doesn't score goals, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I know a lot of people look at it in terms of goals and assists and so on, but for me, as long as the team, and you can tell when a team's flying, you can watch it. Everything looks like it's like a well-oiled machine. If that's happening and he's a part of that, I'm not going to
100%, John. I said exactly the same thing. I think it's fluid. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Yeah.
This team is. I want to see interchanging. I want to see fluid movement, and the goals are going to come from everywhere. And as you say, it's about winning football games.
And I just want to say as well, it's funny that we've finally replaced Prime Poch with Ange. We finally replaced Eriksen with Maddison. You could say Dembele with Basuma on this season's performances. Udogie with Rose. I mean, who else we got in there?
I think Udogie's on a class.
Carl Walker.
Not quite. No, not quite there yet.
Kane with Son and Son with Solomon.
Yeah, not sure about that yet, but we're getting there. We're starting to rebuild that spine again. Van der Ven Vertonghen. Yeah, Van der Ven Vertonghen.
I think
it's taken 5 years, but we're doing the painful rebuild just 5 years too late, basically.
Yeah, it's taken us a lot of time, hasn't it?
And boy, is it painful! Has it been painful?
Well, it's enjoyable now. It's enjoyable now.
It's enjoyable for the
first
time I've enjoyed football for 5 years.
Yeah.
When it comes to the whole Maddison versus Eriksen debate, I think for me, Maddison definitely does have the potential to be better than Eriksen, 100%, in terms of how effective he is on a football pitch. When I think about what John was saying about Maddison's ability to pick the ball up from deep areas and be more involved in the game, I think Eriksen used to drop deep sometimes. And I remember on occasion, it would happen where we would play Eriksen in a double pivot, but it never quite worked. I never thought he was totally comfortable there. Whereas Maddison seems a lot more comfortable in those kind of areas because I think he's a lot more press resistant than Eriksen. Eriksen was a lot more easy to get the ball off. I feel like than Maddison is. He's a lot more trickier with his dribbling ability. I think Maddison's more willing to make late runs into the penalty area as well and get into goal scoring positions inside the box. And I think he's going to be a bit more of a goal scorer than Eriksen. When it comes to chance creation, I still put Eriksen above Maddison at the moment. I think Eriksen was a bit of a freak when it comes to chance creation, especially in those half spaces, like on the right and the left-hand side of the penalty area, and left or right foot as well. He was just extremely effective and with any sort of space. And I think Maddison's really good, don't get me wrong. He's probably in the upper echelons in the Premier League when it comes to chance creation. But when Eriksen was at his best, I don't think there was a midfielder in the league who was creating more chances than him. So I would say Maddison is just behind on that. But as an overall player, also you got to include the leadership ability as well, because Eriksen never really did that for Spurs. He was always a player who was one under the radar. I felt like in the dressing room, he didn't really, even though he was one of the main players in the team, he never seemed like the one who would stand up to be counted and encourage other players. Yeah. And you saw it in the documentary when he wanted to leave, he just wanted out. He didn't seem to be digging in for the team kind of thing. Whereas Maddison seems to be in a different stage right now, and I think he's more looking to do that with his leadership ability and encouraging other players as well. So I think overall, Maddison, look, it's hard to say after 4 games if he is a better player, but I definitely think he has the potential to be a better player from what I'm seeing, 100%. But I would say Eriksen still has some stuff over him at the moment.
I think the fact that we're even discussing it is unbelievable. The fact that we're comparing the two suggests that we've got a great thing going on here. And I also think that
Maddison's been one of the leading Premier League attacking mids of the last 2 seasons in this Leicester side. And I think when you're trying to compare them, obviously Eriksen, every time he played for us when he was on form, he made us tick. He was the guy that literally made us tick. And when he was off, we missed him dramatically because we didn't have someone that could be a complete assist machine time and time again like he could. But I think Maddison has more facets to his game in what all of you are saying, kind of like the way his ball carrying ability, the way he drives into the space, his leadership ability. But Eriksen does have facets that were better than Maddison. But I think as a whole player of what he can actually bring on a football pitch and to a game, I think Maddison actually is a better player.
And also, I mean, I was a little bit, shirty about his tweets and stuff. And I remember I was a bit annoyed that we signed him, to be honest with you.
He said he was never good, John.
I'm never going to get behind him. I'm never going to get behind him. I've come up with a chant for him, but never mind. But
he's not a gooner, you know that.
No, well, I felt like he was at the time.
He actually, an interview came to light when he was at Leicester, and
Yeah.
he said that he was like a Man U or Liverpool fan. I can't remember.
Okay,
which one.
good to know.
That's all right. Isn't
I'm going
it?
to put that aside. I'm going to put that aside. But one of the things I've noticed is he's actually. I can see that his personality is almost like a bit of a gel to the rest of the players. Yeah, and it's not just about atomized individual talent. It's actually about. It may just be I'm blinkered at the moment because we're winning and it feels as though there's a good team spirit, but it does feel as though there's a real brotherhood there, a togetherness with the personalities. And he's now sort of getting rid of the Ndombele's and stuff, the kind of the bad apples. And I actually think that Maddison has the sort of infectious, enthusiastic positivity that's actually rubbing off on a lot of the other players and bringing a lot of people together. I think that's maybe why he was, asked to be vice captain. I think he has that instant effect. You can see that when you watch his videos. You can see that he's just got that personality. And I think Ange mentioned it. He said it's not just about the signing. It's actually about the personality. It's about the person as much as the player. Yeah. And I think that's a kind of an ethos that you wouldn't have seen really, I don't think, under Mourinho or Conte. I think that's only really going to come about through a manager like Pochettino, Ange, maybe a Martin Jol or something like that, And I think that is starting to really show on the pitch, and you can see the way they're all pulling for each other at the moment. I haven't really seen this so much for years.
For a fan,
go on, Johnny.
I was just going to say, it was an interesting read. I read this before. It was quite interesting, right? About how, as fans, how we've sort of come from last season to now. It says, imagine an away trip to Burnley under Jose or Conte. Ideally, for pathetic fallacy, it would be a Monday night in February, cold and raining. Turgid dross at best. 1-1 with an 87th minute own goal by Burnley for our equaliser in a game that you swore had been going for 290 hours, but you look at your watch and it is only 10 minutes into the second half. The sort of end of days Jose game where your mind starts wandering and you find yourself wondering during the game, do I have any toilet duct left in the house? And how tempted am I to squirt it into my eyes to relieve the pain? And who knows how this will end? But for the first time in a while, I would happily choose watching Spurs over having root canal without anaesthetic. And for that, Ange, I thank you.
Shakespeare, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
I thought it was brilliant. That really sort of sums up, a journey of us Spurs fans, over the last 3 or 4 years, and how now, you can just see to finish, to go out on a Saturday night and to be smiling and going to work and bump into people on Monday and say, yeah, you don't
We're all right.
say anything. Hey, playing all right, aren't they? Rather than be ridiculed. It's refreshing.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is the first.
Is this another false dawn, though? Is this another false dawn, or is this actually?
Well, who knows? Who knows?
Well, if it is, you better enjoy it now. That's what
better enjoy it now. It's really the first time I've watched Spurs where you could actually say it is to dare is to do embodied in the way that we play.
100%.
I don't know what the actual quote is. Maybe Ben, you might be able to remember because I think you've said it before. But even in defeat, there's an echo of glory.
I think the quote is
Bill Nicholson.
Is it Bill Nick or Danny Blanchflower?
I think it's Bill Nick, isn't it?
It's Bill Nick, yeah.
I think he said something like, if you aim so high that even failure has its echo of glory or something.
That's what it is. Yeah, and that's what I think. And Ange also said when he came in, he said, I'm not focused on results. I'm focusing on the performance. And if you get the performance right, the results take care of themselves. And I think that's a completely different mindset, because if you go out just to get the result, then you sacrifice the performance. And
Conte was the complete polar.
And you're trying to panic your way to getting over the line. Now, if you focus on the fluidity, the passing, the movement, everything else, you might lose the game, but you know that you've set the conditions to win that game. And if you do that over a long period of time, probability-wise, you're going to win. You're going to come out on top. Whereas if you're just fighting just to get over the line, and you've seen this time and time again in FA Cup semis where our arseholes fall out, and we're just trying to just do enough to survive the games. And we never look like Spurs in FA Cup semis. We just look like a team on, fighting for our lives. And I think that's the mentality shift, the psychology shift that Ange is trying to instill. And you can see it already. I'd love to see what happens. I think the true test is Emirates. because even under Poch, the best teams that we've had, we still our assholes fell out at the Emirates. You know,
John, haven't you got the memo, John? Poch was a fraud. Like,
no, but that's for me. That's the yardstick. You know,
his arsehole still lying on the pitch somewhere.
Yeah.
He's a massive fraud. He's a massive fraud.
I would love to see even if we lost to Emirates, I'd love to see us just go on the front foot there and just play and just really just put in a performance. I don't care if we lose.
We will.
Really,
I think we will.
I hope so.
Here's Bill Nick's
Arsenal are there for the taking at the moment. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well,
but all they need is a win against us to put them back on track. That's
going to kickstart their season and win against us. You watch.
Here's Bill Nick's statement. It is better to fail aiming high than to succeed aiming low. And we of Spurs have set our sights very high. So high, in fact, that even failure will have in it an echo of glory. That's the one.
That's I just wish that could just send that memo to Levy, will he?
Well, funny enough, John, I'm assuming that our DNA. He talks about our DNA. Yeah. Bill Nicholson is our DNA, and yet his gates are still lying somewhere down the road. There's still no statue. There's still no gates. Down at Arsenal, they've got 7 statues. We don't have one. What does that say about this club? It's like it's been cleansed. Our past has been cleansed. No. We want to go when you go with your kids, however, you've got kids, you don't have kids. Who's that, Dad? That's Bill Nick. He's the greatest manager ever. Who's that, Dad? That's the stories you tell your kids when they go. That's the story of Tottenham.
They're going to have a statue of Beyonce and Axl Rose or something like that. Before they have a statue of Bill Nick. But it's how we treat our legends, the way we treated Harry Kane as he was walking out this club. So.
Daniel Levy's going to make a statue of himself because he believes how much he's done for the club. I wouldn't even put it past him.
Him and Joe Lewis and his his nephew player liaison guy will be one as well.
Can I just say this, just in case this ever filters to Levy's, cronies, his associates or something like that. Please don't make the same mistake as you did in 2015, where we had a great starting 11 and you thought, wow, I don't have to do anything. You had people like Harry Redknapp coming on Sky Sports saying, I wouldn't buy any players because who are you going to replace them with? Don't do anything. That was the first crack that appeared, because when you don't keep replenishing, eventually players start to fade, and then you're having to quickly, reactively replace these players. Levy, if you're listening, you be proactive, think in advance, do as a preventative measure for a couple of seasons time. You've got to start being proactive now with your signings. Don't just say, Angie's got it sorted. He's revitalized the team. I'm going to not do anything now. Everything's wonderful. You've got to treat it like we're 10-0 down going into a second half with the way that you invest in this team. Don't just think we're 10-0 up. I can sit back. I'll wait until things drop a little bit and then I'm going to do something. We've seen this before with Levy when he went a whole year and didn't buy anyone. And that was the opening of the story.
Yeah, what did Pochettino say in the documentary? You have to anticipate the house burning.
Exactly.
He said you have to anticipate the house burning down before it burns down.
Do not make that same mistake, please, Levy. We need you to be proactive and treat us like we're mid-table right now in terms of the investment going into this squad.
I wonder if he told Todd Bowley the same.
Look, John, let's finish off on the Maddison song.
Right, okay. So no. Maddison was calling for a chant, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm not happy about it. I don't think we're creative enough as a fan base with our chants. A lot of them are old ones, the Van der Ven, the Van der Vaart.
You're telling me James Maddison, James.
Yeah,
Maddison,
come on, guys. Okay, are we all familiar with Bad Medicine?
Give us a rendition of Bad Medicine.
It's like bad medicine. Yeah, bad medicine is what. Right, so
does everyone in the comments know Bad Medicine? Let's see if they can
play it. So anyway, ready? This is the first rendition. There might be another one. Okay, first one is Tottenham have got James Maddison. James Maddison is what I need. Whoa, scoring goals just like James Maddison, the best midfielder in the Premier League. Right. What I want people to do, clip that up. Please tweet it to James Maddison and tell him if he replies back and does a little selfie video saying he approves of it, we'll all then sing it in the crowd and we'll make it into an anthem. So I need everyone watching to help out with that. Share it.
John, how many words is that? Because that fanfic can normally only do one line.
Scoring goes like James.
Tim, I need to test you. Sing it. I want you to sing it. I'm testing you. Right.
Can we put the words up?
I can't even remember. What was it?
Tottenham have got James Maddison.
Tottenham have got James Maddison. James Maddison is all I need. Scoring goals,
just like James Maddison.
Actually, pretty good song.
The best
Really good.
in the Premier League.
Right.
Is there like a dude, like anything that we can jump
We
up
can
and
do a
down
at the end or something, yeah.
Maddison. What about the other one? Maddison. And on, and on, and on.
Comparison.
Okay.
Oh dear.
What is
used to
that,
be
Johnny?
Ariston? Was it Ariston? Was it?
Oh, you're thinking about that advert, aren't you? That's
Huh?
that's from like an 80s advert, isn't it?
Yeah, Ariston. I think it was called Ariston. Yeah.
Yeah, can't
what
see
they
that one
sold.
working.
Yeah. Shows you how old I am.
Well, on that note, I think that's a really good song. I will clip that up for you, John, and I will put it
Thanks,
on
mate.
Twitter just for you. And I think we should get that song going for sure.
Put the words out. Can you put the words on?
Send it to James
It
Madison.
needs repeatability. John. How do you end
We know
the
he's
how
got
do
a
you end the song
Twitter.
and go back into the start? Does it just go
James
straight back into the start?
I'll write it and you can put it on the description as well.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Big up, guys. I want to thank Johnny H making his debut on We Are Tottenham TV. Where can the people find you?
Johnny H3232. You can find me on Twitter. Do the spaces. Everyone welcome. And you'll also find me with Brian Daigle, Tottenham on Tour and anger management after every game. Doing very well at the moment. And love to see you there. Love to see you here. Love to see you there. And it's a pleasure to be here. Pop in my cherry.
Pleasure to have you as well.
Oh, can I say one last thing? I actually did an interview with one of our crew, Brains. Who's a regular on the channel. I did a really amazing podcast with this guy. You might think you know this guy a little bit, but he shared with me his story for 3 hours, and let me tell you, it is incredible. That guy, it's deep as hell, creative, funny guy. Like it's an amazing podcast episode. If you want to check that out, I'm sure you can link it in. But yeah, just wanted to mention that. Big up, Brains.
Yeah, do go over and check that out. But where can the people find your podcast, and where else?
Just youtube.com/The John Cooper Show. I invite on all kinds of different guests that have an interesting story. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment.
And are we going to see you soon again? You're going to leave us 2 years again, John?
Ben's been grooming me, like took me out for coffee the other day, and slowly piece by piece trying to get me back in. Watch this space, all right? Let's just say that.
Whoa. Exclusive.
John to We Are Tottenham. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for everyone, guys. We'll see you all for another day of Tottenham content tomorrow. Thank you for the guests for coming on. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you.
Come on, you.